All right, Cam Newton, the 2015 NFL MVP, meeting with reporters yesterday for the first time since that bizarre firing of offensive coordinator Joe Brady, tucked into the new bad news dump. Announce your bad news during 7 NFL games. Here's Cam Newton talking to reporters about the situation and about the playoff hopes of the Carolina Panthers.
Y'all playing for respect at this point and not even looking past like playoffs or anything like that.
Hey, can we please stop mentioning that word? I'm trying to get a win. Hell, I'm 0-2. Right? I'll be lying to somebody to be like talking about playoff football, bro. The important thing for me, bro, is, and no disrespect to your question, it's just like, yeah, we know what the grand scheme of things is, but the reality is, like, I'm 0-2. Like, the feel-good story of Cam coming back. Like, and I said this then, and I'm going to say it now. This ain't no Cinderella. Like, I'm here to win football games, right? So all the feel-good stories about how we met and this, that, and the third, like, bruh, who got cut, who got released, man, I'm here to win. And when we win, everybody else gets promotions. And when you don't, a lot of people going to get cut along the way. So that's just the harsh reality of the league that we play in. But I'm not telling you nothing that you don't know. I just want the message of this to be, I'm focused all on Atlanta. Do I think I had something to do with it? The competitor in me, absolutely, yes. Because the truth of the matter is you don't lose your job because of success. But where I'm at now is doing what I can control to make sure that I have a job too. Yeah, let's just be honest.
That latter part, obviously, about Joe Brady and the firing of Joe Brady. And there was a moment during the press conference yesterday where Cam Newton was asked whether he stayed in Charlotte to work with Joe Brady and Sean Ryan, the quarterback's coach, during that bye. And Cam Newton steered clear, very clear. Now, because there's a story to be told. There's a story to be written. There's a story to be reported on why in the hell the Panthers fired Joe Brady halfway through their 14-day break between games. Because if you want to get Jeff Nixon, who's going to take over the play calling, ready to go, you fire Brady on Monday. You don't do it 6 days after that. And I can't help but wonder, and this is common sense, Occam's razor, the only razors that I ever use reliably without cutting my face, but the basic explanation, the simplest explanation. Occam's razor stands for the proposition that the simplest explanation is usually the accurate explanation. Joe Brady and Cam Newton didn't click. Joe Brady and Cam Newton didn't get along. Joe Brady was having a hard time teaching his offense to Cam Newton. Cam Newton was rejecting that offense, and Joe Brady wasn't being flexible. And I remember saying this from the outset. It's not so much teaching Cam Newton the Joe Brady offense. It's teaching Joe Brady the Cam Newton offense. You got to adapt your approach. You got to adapt your offense. You got to adapt your strategies and your tactics and your plays and everything to the talent that you have. Cam Newton isn't Sam Darnold or Teddy Bridgewater. You got to have a different approach. And it may be that it just blew up. It just blew up, and that's it. And they're all in with Cam for the rest of the season. And if Matt Rule already had doubts about Joe Brady, easy and clean break. Let's do it and let's move on. If I'm going to do it anyway after the season, let's just do it now and try to salvage this so I don't get fired too.
Imagine that, Mike. When you have a great quarterback, it makes you look like a great offensive coordinator. And that's what Joe Brady was at LSU when he had Joe Burrow. He was outstanding. That's why he got the Carolina offensive coordinator job, was because of what he did with Joe Burrow at LSU. And he's going to get a job somewhere else and could be highly successful doing that. I mean, we were talking about him as a head coaching candidate potentially. When that LSU job came open, everybody looked kind of a little bit toward Joe Brady and said, would they consider Joe Brady as much as he's beloved at LSU? But you give him Teddy Bridgewater and Sam Darnold and now Cam Newton, who he may or may not have wanted. and you see what the result is. I mean, Cam Newton had his career low passer rating of 5.8. It's impossible to do that. 5 of 21 against the Dolphins, 92 yards, 2 interceptions against the Dolphins. This wasn't like the 1985 Bears defense, Mike. They did this against the Dolphins.
Oh, I know, and I actually thought the Panthers were going to win that game. Shows you how little I know about how the dominoes are going to fall when it's time to go out and play. And as to Joe Brady, I now wonder, is he like the new John DeFilippo? Remember that name? I don't even know where DeFilippo is right now.
That's a great point.
But he was the young, hot coordinator he's on his way, and it's just a matter of time before he's a head coach, and it's just media creation, and we all fall in line, and this person's talking about John DeFilippo. I better talk about John DeFilippo, or I'm not going to look like I know what I'm talking about. And that's how people get boosted, and agents get involved, and they push, and the name gets circulated. And at some point, you got to do the work. And it could be that Matt Rule's wrong. It could be that Joe Brady deserved to stay. It could be that whatever Joe Brady was saying about Cam Newton was accurate. I can't work with this guy. He won't listen to me. I'm speculating here. I don't know what the truth is. But for him to be told to pack his stuff and go, that's what made Matt Rule's comments from Monday so freaking bizarre. He's so nonchalant about it. It's like, dude, you didn't bench a guy. You fired a guy. And I know that they're numb to it because they do it with players all the time. The idea of telling an assistant coach during a season, pack your things and leave, that's not the result of just, well, I decided to go in a slightly different direction this week. That's a hugely different direction this year and beyond. And I just think that it speaks to, number one, their desire to tuck it into the 1 o'clock Eastern games on Sunday. And two, that we say dysfunctional teams do dysfunctional things. And sometimes it's not a matter of shrugging when the dysfunctional team does something dysfunctional. It's seeing something dysfunctional and working backwards and saying, we have found ourselves yet another dysfunctional team.
Well, Matt Rule's comment, too, about, I tried to call him in Saturday to give him the news, but he couldn't come in Saturday, so we had to do this on Sunday as the explanation for why they put this firmly in the 1 o'clock starts of these games, and it really got buried as news. And I don't believe that at all. I mean, maybe he did indeed come in on Sunday, but that's not the reason they announced this on Sunday. I think they did it as a news dump, a bad news dump, and they did it. They found a perfect place to put it. But that explanation of, he couldn't come in on Saturday, so we got him in on Sunday, that just didn't add up for me.
Why do they have to lie about everything? And I'm not picking on Matt Rule here, but he is the guy who made the rounds at the scouting combine in 2020 just before the world turned upside down and tried to tell everybody how he was looking forward to coaching Cam Newton. And I don't think he meant after we cut him and he plays for someone else and then is available for 8 weeks and we bring him back out of the blue. I don't think he was talking about 19 months later. I think he was talking about just a few months later. But there's a point where, I don't know. I just think that, and I understand that football strategy on the field and off the field requires a certain amount of deception, strategic deception aimed at causing you to be more likely to vanquish your opponent. But there is a point where you just don't want to put yourself in a position where you have to lie. See, you put yourself in a position where you have to lie when you deliberately select 1:15 Eastern during games on a Sunday in order to create minimum attention. And then when you're asked about it, you come up with some cockamamie story as to why you didn't announce it any earlier. And maybe it is the absolute truth that I choose not to accept that it's the truth. And again, we have plenty of examples we can point to over time as to where coaches have told us something other than the truth because the truth was too inconvenient.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.